Let's do it. Hi everyone and welcome to another video. It's really exciting, isn't it? I've got this platform where I share my journey with you, and so it only felt right to talk about something that has been a pretty significant finding and a pretty significant part of my life over the last month or so. In today's video, we are going to be talking about something kind of different. We are going to be talking about my experience of fibroids. And I really want to talk about it because I learned that 70% of women have fibroids. But when I found out I had them, I went into a huge spiral of, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to have children. Oh my gosh, what does this mean? And feeling so alone in it and so scared of it, like it was this big scary thing. I had heard of 2 people having them before, and their experiences were so extreme that when I found out I had them, it was really scary. And the way that my mind spiraled in that was really sad now that I reflect on it as well. And then I found out that actually 70% of women have fibroids. And I thought, if 70% of women have fibroids, why in the world have I only heard of them twice in such extreme circumstances? It should just be something that's normal, that women know about and men know about. And we just talk about it like it's a normal thing, and you kind of take whatever path is meant for you from there. I just think it would be so nice to hear the term fibroids and not freak out. I just would love for there to be more education about it. Having said that, I'm not a medical professional, so I will simply be talking about my experience of it. If you are looking for advice on what you should do, this isn't quite the video for you. But in this video, I did just want to talk through my experience of it so that we can normalize it, and hopefully if you hear the word fibroid, whether it's to do with your life or someone that you care about, it's not a big scary thing. It's just a thing that 70% of women our age have. Now, any information that I do talk about from a medical sense comes literally from these 2 documents that my doctor gave me. It is the Australian and New Zealand obstetrics and Gynecology Patient Information Guide. What are fibroids? Uterine fibroids are benign tumours of the uterus. They grow from cells in the muscle wall of the uterus. Doctors classify fibroids by their location. Fibroids are common, occurring in about 7 out of 10 women of childbearing age. So my journey of finding out that I have fibroids was really interesting. I was lying in bed about a month ago with my husband, watching TV. I was full and I was just like prodding around my tummy, and I was like, oh my gosh, that feels so hard. And I literally thought, hey, I'm just constipated. That is literally just my stool hardened up. I'd heard of people that do have kind of stomach problems before talk about how their stomachs get really hard, and so I just thought, that's what it must be, nothing urgent, nothing to really look into. But the next day, it still was there, and so my husband was like, hey, why don't you just like go and check it out with a doctor? So I did go to the GP, and she had a little bit of a prod around my lower belly and did say that it felt a little bit different, and so she booked me in, or gave me a referral to go and get an ultrasound. I tried to get this done ASAP because I was feeling nervous at this point. I was like, what is this? What's going on? I just want to have this ultrasound and, like, you know, let's just tick everything off and be fine. And so I called up to get an ultrasound, and what I did not realize was a part of this ultrasound, if consented to, is like a stick going up your vagina, and it obviously does the imaging from in there, and it's just better for you because it gives you a better view because it's like, I guess, inside you. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert in this stuff. But I hadn't realized when I called up, and I was actually on my period. So I was like, we're not going in right now. But something to just be aware of, that if you are getting an ultrasound and they're checking out for that kind of thing, they might ask you if you consent to having the internal ultrasound done. I said yes because I just wanted to have all the information and get this closed out. I was feeling nervous, and I was like, do what you need to, just get it done. So I booked in before this internal ultrasound and just external ultrasound, had to drink like 2 liters of water, and you can't pee beforehand, and so you're there, and I was like busting for the loo. Luckily my husband came, which was really nice. It was just comforting to have him there and just like make it less weird because I felt a bit strange about it, but it ended up being totally fine. She kept asking me if it was like painful or anything, I think because I was looking very uncomfortable, and I was like, no, it's not painful. I didn't find it painful, but I just really needed to pee. And I was like, this is not fun. Like, can we we get this done? This is the weirdest thing in the world. So anyway, had that, and then my results went back to my doctor, and I had another check-in with my GP, and she confirmed that I do have fibroids. She'd said that I've got like 2 larger ones and then a couple of smaller ones. And the problem is the larger ones, because as we've heard, 70% of women have them. It's just if they start growing that it becomes more of something to watch out for. My largest one was about 8 centimeters, or is about 8 centimeters, and my slightly smaller than that one is 6 centimeters, which I found out is like the equivalent of having that iPhone length in my tummy. Finding out I had fibroids was actually really scary, because the 2 times I'd heard about fibroids before that were both really extreme circumstances. It had meant really kind of invasive surgery and just some more challenges and struggles that I'm not going to go into because it's not my journey and I'm not medically aware of it. But all I did know was that it was big and it was scary, and it just left a lot of question marks in my mind. And so when I found out that I had a similar problem, it was really scary. And I also didn't have enough education to even know what that meant. All I knew was it has been really scary for these 2 people that I know. What in the world does that mean for me? And at the same time, I didn't want to Google it, because I was like, I don't want to have Dr. Google telling me all these really scary things that are going to potentially just freak me out more before I really have spoken to a specialist and I know what my journey forward would be. And it was really interesting, because I came home after that GP appointment and I went on a walk with my husband, and I had this really weird reaction of obviously crying. That's not the weird reaction, but I was crying lots, and I was like, I'm really sorry, would you have married me if you knew I have fibroids? Because in my head that equated to you can't have children, which is not the case. Let me just say now, that is not the case at all. But in that moment where all I knew was these 2 really intense, scary circumstances, which by the way, also, they still can have children. So it's not like that was even the case, but your mind just goes, and my mind just went, and it became really big and really scary. And I just had all of this weird guilt and sadness, and it was not nice. It was really not nice. And I'm quite the feminist, and hearing myself say those things and know those things was just really sad. I'm not angry with myself, but it is just really crazy to think of all the pressure, and even if it's not pressure, just all the reliance on a woman's body there is. It was really scary and it was really sad. But then luckily I managed to talk to one of the people that had fibroids, and she sat me down and was like, girlfriend, my experience was so extreme, this is gonna be different. Yours are like half the size, they're smaller than half the size, they're about 1/3 of the size as hers was. And also, you're probably not gonna have to have like invasive surgery. You might have surgery, you might just need to take some tablets, and that'll be calling it a day, but it doesn't need to be this big scary thing. And that was honestly so nice to hear. Yeah, just to dispel that thought that it had to be this big, scary, terrifying thing, and actually so many people have them, and you just deal with it. The other part of it that was really scary upon finding out was that I was referred to a specialist, or a gynecologist. And the gynecologist that I was referred to, I called up, the receptionist was just really cold, and so I felt like a little bit like, oh, what's happening? But then when I tried to book in, she was only available in 4 months from then. And finding that out, honestly, I just remember my stomach like dropping, because at that point I didn't really know what fibroids were. I hadn't spoken to this person that had experienced them before. All I knew is that I had them. I needed to talk to a doctor. It was potentially really, really scary. I might need surgery and all these things. So everything was spiraling, and my date for getting things sorted was 4 months in the future. And it wasn't even to get things sorted. That was to have like an initial consult. And so that was also really, really hard, because I just didn't know when I'd be able to resolve it. We have a lot of travel plans coming up. And so finding out that all of this, not only like my future life in terms of like children and all that jazz, not only will that, potentially be off track, but also my immediate plans. Like we're not trying for children right now. Right now we're trying for travel. And so knowing that that might all change was awful. Sorry, mum and dad just came over to give me some prashad. So yeah, just feeling like I couldn't access the care that I needed in a timely manner and have clarity around anything was really daunting. But then really luckily, this person that I spoke to was able to refer me to her gynecologist, who just was amazing. I called that place. The receptionists were so lovely. Like, they just sounded like they genuinely really cared about me. And even that made such a difference. And I was able to book in from 2 weeks from then, which was just honestly so reassuring to just know that I'd be able to have answers and know what was coming next in a shorter time period. So then fast forward a couple of weeks and I go to my gynecologist appointment. My gynecologist is amazing. I love him. I have this thing where I displace emotions onto my medical professionals. Not in a romantic way, but just in a, I trust you, you are the best. Thank you, fix everything for me kind of way. I honestly reckon it's a bit of a coping mechanism to just be like, it's fine, everything's fine because I have the best person in the whole world. And that is 100% what I've done, but I do genuinely feel like he's so great. And so I went to this gynecologist and honestly, it felt like I was in LA getting a nose job. It was beautiful. And oh my gosh, I can't even put into words how much having a really, really nice healthcare experience in terms of just like literally the aesthetics of it makes a difference. I walked in, it was all like beautiful yellow light kind of vibes. It was all like that really cool furniture, you know, the ones that are like bubble furniture kind of vibe. They had free drinks and snacks, and like that is the way to my heart. Even to the point where they had different varieties of milk. So they had like a soy milk and an almond milk, and like that's when you know that this place is like looking after its people. I will say I'm so lucky to be able to access private healthcare. So this is a private gynecologist, and I'm just so grateful that I can access them, and they had time for me and they've put in that much care for me. And I do fully acknowledge that that is not everyone's experience, and I am really happy in mine. And it does just make me go, oh my gosh, we should be funding healthcare so much more, because it made a huge difference to how I felt about the whole thing. Walking in and feeling like I was at a spa honestly made me feel so good about having this interaction, or just like having this experience. And I honestly reckon it's gonna make my recovery so much better, because I genuinely feel so taken care of and like a princess. And I'm very happy to feel like that. I was like, I'm here to passenger princess through this experience. Doctor, take the rails and keep me in this beautiful surgery, please. So yeah, that was really, really good. Again, I'm just so grateful and so lucky to be able to experience that private healthcare. And I just really hope that other people's experiences can be as nice as mine. And as someone that specializes in customer experience for work, I would love to be able to work in that realm and look at how you can create better patient experiences for people. But anyway, I've sidetracked. I went in, saw the doctor, and he said basically the 2 fibroids, given that I do want to have children in the future, will need to go. Luckily, they're not so big that I have to have like C-section like surgery. I can have keyhole surgery. There's just a couple of tests I need to do to confirm that. Given that I'm on this timeline crunch and we are going traveling, I wanted to just preemptively book in my surgery ASAP and obviously do the tests in the background just to confirm that I would be able to have keyhole surgery. So I booked it in for literally like 2 weeks from going and seeing this surgeon. It was really fun going to my gynecologist because yeah, he had like this really cute bobblehead. It was all really personalized. Like it just felt really nice. And I had told them like, oh, hey, you actually removed a fibroid for someone I know. And it was like a really big one. And it was quite a serious instance. And he was like, yes, I'm very good at what I do. And I was like, good. That is the kind of confidence I want from my healthcare professionals. And so I felt like I was in good hands, and I trotted off to get my other tests done. Now, the other tests, as far as I'm aware, were to just make sure that that type of surgery was okay for me, because in keyhole surgery, from my understanding, what they will be doing is popping some little tools inside my lower belly and cutting up the fibroid and then like vacuuming it out and like sucking it out. And now if it is not benign, then you would not want to be cutting up anything because you don't want it to spread. That is my very low level understanding, and it might not be correct, so please don't quote me on it. Again, I'm not a healthcare professional. The tests I had to get were a blood test. I'm not good with needles, so that was not fun, but hey ho, did it. I was a big girl. Oh, I have this thing where apparently I just have like smaller veins, and so I just really need to chug water. If you don't like blood tests, just make sure you have a lot of water beforehand so it's an easier, smoother ride for you. But hey ho, we got there and it was fine. And then I had to get an MRI. Now that was harder to book in, and it took me a couple of days to even find somewhere that would do it, and it cost me money. It cost me $500, which was not fun, but at this point my priority is just to be able to get the surgery ASAP, recover ASAP, and be able to go on my travels. So again, I'm very grateful to be in a position where I could access that level of urgent healthcare by paying for it. I had the MRI. It's actually my second MRI. I had an MRI when I broke my arm because there were just like a couple of complications. But I feel like this one was much nicer than my experience of this one with fibroids, because with the fibroids one, I had to like completely go into the tunnel. I'm not claustrophobic, so it wasn't that was freaking me out, but I'm sure to some level, on a subconscious level, it was not nice to be like lying like this in what could be a coffin. Anyway, it was okay, but what I actually really struggled with was that I had to keep getting injections. So they had to inject me with Buscopan, and so that, from my knowledge, was to relax my bowels or something, just so that they could get clearer imaging. And then they also had to, that was Buscopan. Why did they inject me again? Oh, right, sorry. And the other one was for contrast. And so again, not a medical professional. The way I think of it is like that I like highlight differently in the imaging that they take. And so as someone not good with needles, they initially tried this arm, wouldn't work. They moved to this arm, and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore, like get me out. But I also was like, I just need to get it done. So stayed there like a big girl. So the one thing I will say with the MRI, or just needles in general, you should apparently remember which arm or like where is good for needles on you, so that next time you have an appointment where they might need to like probe you, you can just remind them where. So I've learned that's my right arm. And then also just tell them if you need to be distracted, and just tell them if you don't want to hear anything about it. That is my biggest piece of advice, because I need someone to be talking to me about something completely irrelevant and like fully distracting me so that I'm not paying attention. And I will say the MRI needles were more painful. They put this material thing over the area that they were scanning. Apparently that's what's actually taking the imaging. And it was a little bit heavy, and it was like over my lower belly. He also then gave me a blanket because the room was freezing cold, and I had to lie like this, which was a little hard because I had like a bit of the needle thing here. So I just like mentally found it a little challenging. And then I kept having to like put my arm out of the tube thing so that he could keep injecting me with stuff. I'm gonna be honest in this video, I did not love that experience. I think it was probably the injections. The other thing I found really hard was that I felt like I couldn't breathe properly, because I was trying to hold still, but it's hard to keep that area still if you're breathing. And so it went for like an hour and a half. And I was obviously, I need to breathe. And I was just overthinking my breathing so much that it became really awkward and uncomfortable. But I did it, I was okay. I came home though, and I did have like a little meltdown. I think retrospectively, I found it really hard. And in the moment I was like, nah, you're a big girl, like just get through it, just get through it, get through it. Like just do what they're saying, get it done. But afterwards I did have a moment where I was like, that was not nice. But look, it was an hour and a half, I did it, and everything is okay. I would 100% do it again if it meant that I could continue with this. So if you are nervous about having an MRI, you'll be okay. Just get through it. Play some good tunes. So Shana had recommended that I listen to Rihanna. So after the MRI was done, I had to wait a couple of days for my doctor to get the results, and then be able to call and confirm that I could go ahead with my surgery. That period was a little bit hard, because before that, I'd just been so go, go, go. I had a lot going on in a work sense. I'd been really busy, we'd been traveling, and so I hadn't had a lot of time to just sit and think. And I also think lying in that MRI, having all that time to just be like feeling sorry for myself and really uncomfortable and like I can't breathe, brought a lot of it to life. And then having to wait a couple of days to get my results. That was, you know, nerve-wracking. I felt okay because 99% of this kind of thing is benign, so I knew it was very unlikely, but obviously it's daunting. I was so lucky that I was able to get my MRI scans back quick enough, and my surgeon could confirm that I could go ahead with keyhole surgery. Woo, woo, woo! And so where you find me today is my keyhole surgery eve. I'm getting my keyhole surgery tomorrow. I'm feeling kind of excited. Honestly, I think it's gonna be a blur. I don't really know what to expect. I've not really had surgery before, and I've not had surgery where you've had to stay overnight before. I am gonna vlog parts of it. I'm gonna take you with me, and you can come and experience what this fun little ride will look like. I will say, you may have noticed, I have a bit of a cold, which is really annoying. I was like, why? Why would that happen right now? I'm literally about to have surgery here. I do not want to be coughing and sneezing when I've had my surgery. But luckily, I did get my COVID test done and it's not COVID, and the doctor has confirmed that I can still go ahead with surgery. Thanks. Mesh just got back from the gym and is keeping me healthy. I did take a couple of notes, so I'm just gonna check that there's nothing that I haven't discussed that I wanted to talk about. I missed a really big part that I needed to talk about, which was my symptoms. Now, obviously, the way that I realized it, as I've mentioned, was because I felt something hard, and it's just lucky that I felt it at that time and that, you know, I was encouraged to go to the doctor and check it out. But I hadn't realized all these other symptoms meant that I could have fibroids. And I just think that's so baffling, because I think a lot of women probably have these symptoms and just think it might be a normal part of life. So the symptoms I had in particular were a really, really heavy period. And honestly, I think over the last year and a half, it's gotten much heavier. And so that was something that I should have had a light bulb moment with. Secondly, I would get so bloated to the point where like I'd have literally like a smoothie and look pregnant. Like my lower belly would just bloat. And then also really low iron. And so it's just so interesting because it's shown me this little cycle where obviously my fibroids had grown, my periods were heavier, I was already inclined to have low iron, but then because my periods were so heavy, my iron just kept being low. And I felt really lethargic, and it was just really, it's honestly one of those moments where I was like, oh, I've been so annoyed with myself for having low energy and feeling lethargic and not feeling like I'm doing enough. But actually, there's been a whole medical thing behind it. Even just bloating, like I would exercise, I've been working out and trying to lose a bit of weight, and it's not been as quick as it normally is because when you have lower iron, it's harder to lose weight. And so it just felt like this annoying little cycle, and I'm really excited now that I can actually go and do something about it. And moving forward, I will not have fibroids that are annoyingly messing with my system inside. Now, that is all of the notes that I had taken that I wanted to like sit down and talk to you about. All right, let's go pack for hospital.